Hello, friends. After seeing these photos, you might just start believing in reincarnation. Maybe each of us also has a doppelganger from the past. In the meantime, we invite those who have not yet seen pictures of strangers who look just like them to watch today's video to see people who have already found their doppelgangers. Accidental doppelgangers. The word selfie became part of our lexicon only in the early 2000s. However, the art of preserving images of oneself existed for many centuries in the form of portraits and sculptures. Therefore, people sometimes stumble upon portraits that seem a little too familiar. People find their doppelgangers hanging on the walls of museums and galleries. Carson Tecco, for example, discovered his doppelganger on the wall of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. He saw his image in a painting called Young Husband, First Marketing. You can see the resemblance, right? And what about these two unrelated people who look like an 1883 portrait of Russian writer Vsevolod Mikhailovich Garshin? Although the young people do not really look like each other, it can't be denied that they both resemble the man in the old painting. Maybe it's their beards, freckles, and slightly tousled hair? Hair is definitely the reason this man can resemble Don Andrés de Andrade y Lacalle, depicted in the 17th century by Bartolomé Esteban Murillo in a portrait also located in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. But it is not only head hair that can enhance the similarity between a person and a picture. This man must have been very proud of his beard when he saw a portrait of the Swiss sculptor James Vibert at the Art Institute of Chicago. They even have the same combination of red and chestnut colors. It's even more impressive when people find doppelgangers based solely on their facial features. For example, this gentleman may very well be a descendant of the armored old man in a portrait located in the Norton Simon Museum in California. Judging by his beard, nose, and eyes, he is indeed a time traveler. Rebecca Fleenor is a journalist who rose to fame in 2017. Her friend photographed her with a 19th century painting called The Broken Pitcher at the Legion of Honor Museum in San Francisco. The girl in the picture is noticeably younger than Rebecca, but you must admit that they look very similar. The next two photos are of women who saw paintings very similar to themselves in museums. The first woman found herself in the Berlin Museum, while the second posed in front of a portrait called Juno by the 17th century artist Rembrandt. It is impossible to talk about doppelgangers in paintings without mentioning a couple of celebrities. You've probably only seen Oscar Isaac in Ex Machina in Star Wars, but you may not have seen him in Raphael's 16th century self-portrait with a friend, now on display at the Louvre in Paris. Another celebrity who needs no introduction is Mark Zuckerberg. He is an exact copy of the jester El Primo who served King Philip IV. It seems that when reincarnated, El Primo decided to settle down and have a profitable business instead of spending all his money on entertainment. Sylvester Stallone looks like Pope Gregory. Apparently, in his past life, Sylvester Stallone was the insane Pope Gregory IX from Raphael's fresco Virtue and Law. During his rule, he created the Inquisition and called for the destruction of black cats due to his belief that they were the embodiment of the devil, which in turn resulted in the outbreak of the plague. However, it is one thing to find your doppelganger in a painting, but it's a whole other thing to discover your own image in a sculpture. That was the experience of this man who was photographed next to the bust of the ancient Roman emperor Hadrian. Luckily, the man on the left didn't lose parts of his face like the sculpted version. Speaking of missing body parts, this man found something perfect in a museum. This ancient sculpture had only those fingers missing, which the photographer himself had also lost. Crazy, right? Meanwhile, a young man found his doppelganger in an Italian science museum, essentially proving that he was a caveman in his previous life. Now, let's look at other incidents in museums. Accidental art. In March 2016, visitors to the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art fell victim to glasses on the floor, thinking that they were part of the exhibit. Who were the authors of such a brilliant prank? Two 16, 17-year-old teenagers, TJ and his friend Kevin. They came to the exhibits and at one point saw a strange piece of art, a stuffed animal on a gray blanket. They didn't understand why it was considered art. To test their theory that people would try to interpret anything in a gallery, TJ put his glasses on the floor and walked away. As you might have guessed, the teenagers were right. Soon people began to approach the glasses, examining them from a safe distance. What the teenagers found most curious is that their masterpiece was being genuinely admired. Even though they did it for fun, not for the sake of art, they came to an interesting conclusion. Kevin told The Guardian, the deeper meaning could be about perception. Anything in life can be art as long as you provide the insight and help people to see what you see. Interactive art. In April 2021, a couple attended a street art exhibition at a gallery in Seoul, South Korea. Seeing an unframed canvas with several brushes and paint cans lying underneath, the couple decided that visitors were invited to contribute to the exhibition. They added 3 large paint strokes to the piece and calmly went on to look at other pieces. However, after a half an hour, security guards approached them suddenly and detained them. It turns out that the guards saw footage of their artistic contribution. There wouldn't have been an issue had the piece of art not cost nearly $500,000. The brushes and paints that misled the couple were not for visitor use, but were simply displayed as part of the exhibition because that's what the artist used to create the work. The piece was created in 2016 by an American artist, John Won. Fortunately, despite the damage done to the piece, the exhibition's organizers decided not to file charges, realizing that the couple made an honest mistake and did not intend to damage the work. The painting continued to be exhibited, but was fenced off and had a sign that told visitors to keep their distance. Banksy is an English artist and political activist whose true identity remains a mystery. In 2003, at the beginning of his career, Banksy did a prank at the Tate Britain. He changed his clothes and calmly went up to the second floor of the museum, where he just as calmly hung his own painting on the wall next to some valuable 13th century landscape piece. The painting, titled "Crime Watch UK Has Ruined the Countryside for All of Us," featured a landscape cordoned off by police tape. Shortly thereafter, security removed the painting and reportedly left it in the gallery's Lost and Found. It must have been one of the most valuable things in the history of that Lost and Found. In 2004, Banksy repeated the trick, but this time at the Louvre in Paris. There, he was able to hang his own version of Da Vinci's most famous painting, the Mona Lisa. In Banksy's version, Mona Lisa's face is replaced with a smiley face emoji. For this reason, his painting is called the Mona Lisa Smile. Even though we don't know how long the painting was able to hang in the museum, it is known that it was sold for $75,000 at a 2006 auction. Also in 2004, Banksy disguised himself as an employee and entered the Natural History Museum in London. He placed his own creation, Banksus Militus Ratus, among dinosaur bones and various other exhibits from the animal kingdom. His piece was a taxidermy rat that wore a backpack and held a microphone. It had the phrase, "Our time will come," written on the wall behind it. That time, Banksy's prank was so successful that the museum staff did not realize that it wasn't an official exhibition for several hours. Banksy's manager, Steve Lazaridis, said that he even saw one employee approach the rat to see if the display was protected and leave without suspecting a thing. But that was not Banksy's last prank. A year later, in 2005, Banksy changed the caveman art exhibit in the British Museum, placing a piece of concrete depicting a man with a shopping cart among the other ancient artifacts. He even wrote a museum description card that fit in perfectly. The piece sat there for 3 whole days before museum employees realized it was a prank that depicted the modern way of getting dinner instead of hunting for it. The piece also drew attention to the fact that even though society values drawings on walls that are thousands of years old, it punishes people who, like Banksy, leave graffiti on modern walls. Given how famous Banksy has become, his messages clearly resonate with the public. Friends, that's all for today. Like the video and subscribe to our channel. See you next time.